Well, it is an honor, truly a privilege to be here. I'm grateful to have our scholars in the house with us today. The last time I was able to be on this stage was a really full circle event. It was Middle School 54, Booker T. Washington, on 109th in Columbus, where I attended and was able to come here for our graduation. So it is really amazing to be back at Riverside Church. I build public schools. I build public schools of choice. And the choice part of what we do at Democracy Prep is one half of the secret to changing our world and to improving it for not only our scholars, but I hope our entire democracy. And so our scholars have the privilege of walking into these doors every day, and so I want to just take you inside our doors for a minute.
They made a statue of us.
That's a big reason why we're in the situation we're in, because of just apathy towards things that matter and things that are going on. You know, we want to change that with our kids when they grow up. Our mission is to educate responsible citizen scholars for success in the college of their choice and a life of active citizenship.
In the school, they give you a great balance of independence and also a balance of structure, so the teachers pay more attention to you. I want to be either an anesthesiologist or a systems engineer.
And it's contagious. And it's contagious. And it's contagious. And it's contagious.
So this motto for our scholars, thank you. Work hard, go to college, and change the world is what we ask them to do each and every day when they walk into our doors. We ask them to work hard in their academics, to set the goal of college and accept nothing less, and then to use those skills that they've learned to change the world. And we have a long way to go, because right now our schools are generally not schools of choice. When I grew up in Upper Manhattan, you went to school based on where you lived. And so if you lived in Central Harlem or Washington Heights, you didn't go to the best schools. If you lived on the Upper East Side, you did. And that decision to not give parents choice is part of what got us into the situation we're in, where traditional public schools are failing so many scholars. And so Democracy Prep we founded in 2005 to try to change that pattern. And in fact, over the first few years, we've had remarkable results. Our scholars, you met Anna Enriquez earlier today, our scholars now outperform Westchester County on the New York State high school regents exams in every single regents that they've taken. And so what you see is scholars who come to Democracy Prep outperforming wealthy Westchester County, not because they walked in the doors that way, but because they had miraculous teachers who transformed their lives each and every day to get them on the path to college and to citizenship. And so one of the things that critics always say is, well, you must have different kids. The kids must be different somehow. They must be motivated. So we had an economist from Harvard, a guy named Roland Fryer, come in and study our students and our scholars. And he looked at the kids that applied to our school and got in versus the kids who applied and didn't get in. And what he found is not only does the applicant pool look similar to Harlem, in fact, it's more challenging, about 25% with diagnosed disabilities, about 14% English language learners when they come in the doors, 90% living in poverty, but that the performance that those kids had based on that single moment changed their lives. It closed the Scarsdale-Harlem achievement gap over just a few years. And so what that started to do in the community is it started to tell people, wait a second, there's an option, there's a choice. You don't have to go to PS 92 if you live on 133rd Street now. You have a choice. But families started to hear about this and talk about it and apply, and we went out into the projects and Canvas to make sure that everybody knew this was an option, and it was actually bad news. Because now the admissions rate to Democracy Prep in Central Harlem, a free, nonprofit public school, is harder to get into than Harvard University. And the most crazy thing about it is that unlike Harvard University, this is how we choose our kids: a bingo drum. We put the names in that apply, we spin it around, and a few scholars are selected to attend Democracy Prep, with thousands on the waiting list. Over the last few years, we have about 10,000 Harlem scholars sitting on a waiting list to go to a great public school. And they did nothing wrong. They did everything right. They put their name in. It's the name and address, and that's it. But they have to sit on a waiting list because we can't get them the great public schools they deserve. So we need to start changing this, because what this lottery drum symbolizes is a simple fact, that our democracy is broken. Our democracy is broken if you have to rely on a lottery drum to determine the quality of your education and the outcomes your child will receive. And that is not okay. It is not okay in America to have 2% of scholars accepted to a good school and 98% subject to terrible public schooling by no choice of their own, by no fault of their own, by nothing they did. And so we have to change this. We have to fix our democracy. And there's only 5 things that our democracy has as mandatory tools to fix them. You have taxes. And one of my kids earlier was asking me, why do we pay taxes if they go to war and I don't want to support the war? And I said, that's not really how it works. I'm sorry. You pay taxes and that just is what it is. We have jury duty. But Trayvon's killer is not going to see a jury right now. So that's not going to fix our democracy. We have mandatory health care, but it's in the Supreme Court getting litigated right now. We have the selective service, which is mandatory, so you have to enroll. None of those are going to fix our democracy. But we also have public schools. Public schools where are mandated our children to go and attend to learn to be great citizens. And that's what our schools seem to have forgotten, is that that's the real purpose of public schooling, is to fix our democracy. But right now, 15 million children live in low-income communities where only half graduate from college. Sorry, half graduate from high school. Only 8% graduate from college if you're in a low-income community. And so we have to have a radical rethinking of our public schools. And the first part of that puzzle is choice. The first part of the puzzle is choice, but that is actually a revolutionary concept in public schooling where we've never had choice before. And so we're starting to hear noise, conflict. There's a lot of adults in the current system who benefit from a system without choice. And so we're starting to see that conflict come up, and that's good. Democracy requires conflict. Democracy requires debate. Democracy requires it to be noisy. And so democracy is what we want to see for our scholars by injecting choice into their system. But what is democracy? I had a 6th grade scholar in our first year, and I founded a school called Democracy Rep come up and say, Mr. Andrew, what is democracy? And I gave this long answer about Thomas Jefferson and 3 branches and checks and balances, and you could see their eyes glazing over. It was a terrible situation. I went back to our teachers and I said, guys, we're in trouble. We all work at a school called Democracy Prep, and I can't answer what is democracy. I need your help. And so the teachers, the miraculous teachers who worked in our building came back to me, and Ms. Birdsell said, you know what, we've distilled it down to the very essence. Democracy is not just choice. Democracy is choice and voice. And that our schools are not in giving our scholars the voice that they need and our parents the voice they need, even if they have choice. So we have to make sure that our schools now give both choice and voice. Henry David Thoreau said there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil for every one striking at the root. And so many of the ideas we've heard on this stage today, whether they're environmental or health or food or all of the issues that we're talking about, the root to me is in our public schools. That's the place we can educate our citizens to be fighting all of those issues. But we're not even thinking about civics in our public schools and about building citizens. We're thinking just about the most basic test scores, the most basics. And so what we've said at Democracy Prep is we need to do the opposite. We need to give every kid dance and theater and art and music, and we need to take them on field trips and spend the day at TED, and we need to have a much broader experience. But that they also need to be able to pass the tests. Because you can't have one or the other, you have to have both. And so the debates that we hear now are about all the wrong things. We hear debates about class size, or, oh, you can't fix the public schools until you fix poverty, or we've got tough families and you just can't engage those families so those kids won't learn. Funding is not enough, we have too much testing. Those are all wrong. Those are not the issues we need to be fighting. We need to be making sure that there are no excuses for failure when a child walks in the door. Whatever their family situation is, we're going to expect that they work hard, go to college, and change the world. Every single scholar, every single one. So you met Anna earlier, and we got Anna through the lottery in the 7th grade, and she has faced just about every challenge you can imagine, and she only had a few minutes to talk about them. She is one of those scholars who epitomizes this idea. No excuses. We are going to get you there. We're going to make this happen. The teachers around you are going to make it possible for you to achieve anything if you're lucky enough to get into our school. But not every scholar is lucky enough to get into Democracy Prep. So we have to teach our teachers to look out at the classroom when they see Anna or any of our scholars here today and not see the knucklehead in the back or the kid that didn't do their homework or the kid whose mom didn't call back, but instead to see a classroom of 30 kids, as Maya Angelou or Langston Hughes or Alicia Keys, all people who have gone through Harlem and gone through our schools, and we need to see the classroom as them because that's who our scholars are. They are the potential to be these people. And we then have to bring it out as teachers to show it to them. Our secrets are not really that secret. We have a longer school day, a lot more time on task. We use our data thoughtfully and carefully. We have a rigorous curriculum so every scholar goes a college prep path. We build a strong school culture. And then the most important and the hardest piece is talent. Great teachers for our public schools is the single hardest thing to growing more of them. So what we need to do then is to build our scholars so that they can transform our democracy. These are the 10 steps they take to get through our democracy. The first is they learn. They visit 50 colleges. They travel the world. They have the opportunity to travel to 5 continents that we pay for as Democracy Prep all the way through school on public dollars. We don't have extra funding. We don't have a big philanthropic donor. We do that to teach them the world. We need them to engage with our elected officials and engage with our community so they feel connected to Harlem, so they don't just decide to get out, but to give back. We need to make sure that they can debate. They need to debate one another. They need to debate against me, and sometimes they win. We need to have them debate against their elected officials when the elected officials make the wrong decision. We need to teach them to vote, and so not only have mock elections, but we make sure our scholars tell their parents to vote and register their parents to vote. We did a quick experiment to see how many parents of ours were registered to vote when they walked in the door. Correctly registered parents at Democracy Prep when they walk in the door, 9% correctly registered to vote at a school that they applied to called Democracy Prep. So we take that number from 9% to 70%, and we're trying to get it up to 90%. But the bottom line is that we have a lot of work to do to get our families to vote. The next step is to lead. And so I just changed this slide a little bit to make sure that we can vote for Anna someday. When she is a citizen, she will run for office, and she will be the person that I'm most happy to vote for of all time. We need to lobby and have our voice heard in Albany, in City Hall, in the State Assembly, in Congress, in DC. And so we take our scholars and our families to do that every single year, 3 or 4 times, to meet, to lobby, to protest. We need to testify. And we need to testify about the things that we believe. And so our kids are now the youngest people to testify at the New York State Assembly, the New York City Council, the New York State Senate. This is Dan Clark at age 9. We need to create. And so when I promised them they'd go to the inauguration, and then I couldn't pull it off because there was no buses and there was no housing and it was 2 million people and it was too cold, they said, well, Mr. Andrew, can we figure something out? And I said, sure. We created an inauguration committee of 11 and 12-year-olds. The 11 and 12-year-olds put on together the single largest inauguration event outside of Washington, D.C., with 8,000 families filling the Harlem Armory to the rafters, and it was run by 11-year-olds. And the final stage is to teach. We need to teach our scholars to teach so that they can continue this virtuous cycle and break out of their vicious cycle of civic disengagement that we're in now, and so that they can teach their families, teach their siblings, teach one another, and eventually come back and teach. And so we can start to fix our democracy, which is broken. But we have the tools with great teachers and great schools to fix it, but we need to get on that path now because we cannot wait another generation. Dr. King spoke from this podium and wrote, "The fierce urgency of now and why we can't wait. Our public schools need us now, and we need to build real choice and real voice for every family in Harlem because our scholars can't wait." Thank you.